Social media is a pretty weird business to be in. It's hard to believe that YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world after Google, even if it is owned by, well, Google. But when you can search how to change a 2009 Vauxhall Astra brake light and be talked through it by some brummy bloke called Steve, it actually does start to make sense. More businesses than ever are now using social media to connect with customers, potential customers, and promote their wares. Some corporate Twitter accounts have gone viral recently, particularly Ryanair, for their take-no-prisoners approach to interacting with the general public. And one corporation that has really got on board with social media in the last 5 or 6 years is Formula 1. Under Bernie, social media wasn't really a thing, but with the Liberty takeover, F1's push on social media has been huge, with some pretty interesting figures being sent out via Autosport and other outlets, which we will get to in a minute. One of Liberty's big things was to transform the whole social media aspect of Formula 1, and since getting on board, things like Grill the Grid, the Secret Santa stuff at the end of the season, and Tom Clarkson interviewing legends and other F1 personalities have all proved very popular. And then there's the highlights packages of stuff like Monaco 96, Brazil 2008, Spa 98, Spain 1996, and so on. Formula 1 also underwent a huge rebrand to drum up some hype. When they changed the logos, the fonts and the stylings, a lot of people didn't like it, but it's here to stay. Some say it looks a bit video gamey, too Hollywood, and the clean, crisp TV graphics from around 2016 were out. I prefer those 2016 graphics. The ones used today, there's too much information going on. It looks like someone's overdone it with their Twitch graphics. But in the last couple of days, all the big outlets were reporting that Formula 1's social media presence has taken a bit of a nosedive, or a U-turn depending on which one you read. The amount of new followers and subscribers in the year from January up to May was 70.2% down on the same period last year, with overall social media reach down 64.1% on 2022. And the beginning of 2022 coincides with a few things: the most recent Drive to Survive series, which covered the 2021 season, and the brand new rule set that saw Ferrari being competitive for the first few races, before they teetered off and Red Bull romped to the title in the second half of last season. Oh, and the whole cost cap thing that happened later on. So plenty to talk about. This year, though, things have been slightly different. This year has been the Red Bull show, well, specifically the Max show, and this company called Buzz Radar, which is kind of a social media intelligence company, which is their words, not mine, have basically been doing a bit of a delve into the whole thing and seeing that things have changed and that Max's dominance might be something to do with that. And not for the first time. In 2018, F1 social media was in a similar predicament due to Lewis Hamilton's dominance there, and it suffered a bit through 2019 and 2020 as well. And with 2020, you do sort of need to take that with a pinch of salt, given how the season was disrupted due to the C word, and I'm not talking about Piers Morgan. Weirdly though, 2016 social media hits were pretty high. Despite one team running away with it, this was helped by the whole Hamilton-Rosberg rivalry that reached its peak at a level not seen since Prost and Senna. Could you imagine if Twitter existed in 1990? Today there'd be like psychology degree dissertations written about it. Senna 5-time champion, hashtag Senna robbed, hashtag FU Balestri, hashtag karma. It writes itself. But still, again, according to Buzz Radar, Formula 1's position within the sports space in terms of social media and in terms of growth is still sitting quite comfortably, helped in that period of 2016 to 2022 by Hamilton becoming a global star and the emergence of Max Verstappen, which brought with it a whole new Dutch fan base. Between 2016 and 2022, Formula 1's growth on social media is only bettered by the Indian Premier League, which is a cricket series, and the UEFA Champions League, which is a continental football competition for Europe's top club football teams. In 2023 though, Formula 1's growth still remains strong, with only La Liga, the Spanish Premier League, outperforming it across all major sports. It's not actually listed what those major sports are, but you'd have to assume it's football, Formula 1, the NFL, professional wrestling, but that's sports entertainment, rugby, cricket, baseball, basketball, and golf. Both the Indian Premier League and the Champions League are adding more TV coverage in emerging markets. Add to this, India is now the 5th largest economy in the world, and with India's massive population and how cricket is huge over there are more people getting online and more people to be able to follow the social media accounts, but that's just a theory. However, Formula 1 is saying that Buzz Radar's facts and figures aren't quite indicative of the whole picture, because Formula 1 reckons that their social media engagement is actually up by 4%, and by the end of the season, they reckon they're going to have 1.5 billion interactions for the whole of 2023, so that's likes, shares, and comments. Like and subscribe to this as well, by the way. So then, does that still mean that Formula 1 and the FIA have to take a look at their product and start putting two and two together with this whole social media thing? As the data has shown, one man or one team dominance has a detrimental effect on the sport. We're seeing it now, as we saw in the period 2018 and 2019, excluding 2020 because of the global situation skewing things about. Or maybe it's just because things are different now to how they were back in the good old days. When Schumacher was winning through the early 2000s, people showed their displeasure by flicking over to the other channel, which I'm sure a few of you watching did. Now though, because we now have a direct line to all of our favourite sports stars, brands and so on, we can voice our displeasure a little bit more, well, I won't say vocally, but by tapping away on our phones or on our computers. Things like sprint races and other rules and formats being changed for the show, and some older viewers can be forgiven for thinking it's F1 trying to pander to the Drive to Survive fans that have got on board in the last 3 or 4 years. Some have been suggesting that those who came on board thanks to Drive to Survive are seeing F1 for what it actually is and are now less interested. That could be a factor, but as we've seen before with Hamilton, Vettel and Schumacher over the course of the last 20 years, people want to be engaged. It's also interesting to see what kind of position this will now put Formula 1 and the FIA in, because if people are less engaged, they might want to start fiddling with the rulebook and the product even more to try and get the fans back in and more engaged. New gimmicky races, new gimmicky race weekend editions, new locations that nobody cares about, the list goes on. But while combing the internet to see who was saying what and then adding my own opinions on top, I discovered this comment on the Autosport website that I did find intriguing. I always felt that Drive to Survive would generate a fad interest in F1 whereby newcomers to the sport who were taken by the drama and excitement portrayed in the series would become avid fans seeking that same level of excitement week in, week out. In fact, a few friends who had never watched a race in their life became such fans. Quickly enough, and like all fads, they grew tired pretty quickly of the drama that unfolds during a race weekend. Rather, they grew tired of not getting the drama that they were expecting and had been sold on. Those friends no longer watch races and eagerly await the next season of Drive to Survive instead. And that was something I did mention before, the whole Drive to Survive thing making Formula 1 seem like it was something that it quite clearly wasn't, and people are going, well, I've been lied to. Well, I don't really want to call it a lie, but it's just the fact that Drive to Survive has got brilliant producers and brilliant editors. That's not the fault of the fans. That's just how things have turned out. But you can't just pin it all on a documentary. I've seen people turning off because they don't like the direction the sport as a whole has been going in the last few years. Tyres, DRS, bonus points, sprint races, races in countries that have questionable human rights records, and the constant changing of the rules to make once dedicated fans switch off because of what is becoming known as the NASCAR effect. But at the end of it all, it's just a cycle. I said earlier that Max's emergence has brought with him a lot of new fans, and some of those will be bandwagon fans. Some, not all, some. That's the same for Lewis, and it's the same for Robert Kubica as well. There were a lot of Polish bandwagon fans, and since Kubica has left Formula 1, the vast majority of them have gone with him. When Max stops winning or leaves, there will be those bandwagon fans leaving, but a decent chunk will stay. See also Cristiano Ronaldo at whatever Saudi team it is he joined. Their social numbers have jumped, all because of that one person. When the next big thing comes along, or the next intense season happens, the interactions on social media will be back up. The thing is, and this is something that might also be worrying people, is that Formula 1 is a business as well as a sport. You need a constant influx of new fans. When people like myself are dead, you've got to replace us older fans with newer ones. So you need the algorithm to do its thing and be constantly in people's faces to try and bring people in. But I don't think it's anything that Formula 1 needs to be worried about, because it could just be that Formula 1 has just well and truly peaked. For now, it just needs something else to bring it in and get it going again. There's no need to worry. The only time that we or F1 will need to worry is if F1 decides, broadcast revenue is down, better do something to the rulebook to level the playing field, because there's a lot of TV companies paying massive money for those exclusive broadcast deals that are behind paywalls that people aren't tuning into. It's when the sport loses money. That's when everything goes into panic mode. So then, a look at a thing that has happened, and this has been my opinions on that thing. If this thing has made you think things about the thing, then like this thing so the algorithm can do its thing. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this thing so you never miss anything that I do here. Massive thanks to the patrons and channel members who support me at a more personal level, and if you want to make a contribution, you'll find a link to Patreon in the description, along with the F1 Store affiliate link, as well as Discord and socials if you want to connect there. Membership and super thanks is under the description if you want to join at that particular level. So until next time, I've been Millward, have a cracking day wherever you live in the world, and I'll see you all again soon for another video. Goodbye.